Welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome to CrossCountry's R45 webinar. Uh, those of you who have joined us before, welcome back to the series. And those of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you for joining. A couple of items and details just to go through before we jump into the agenda. You're listening on your computer speakers by default, headphones, etc. You are muted though when you're in the webinar. So in terms of questions, we do have a Q&A chat through Zoom that you can access through your taskbar. And we've got folks on the call that will be supporting answering your questions through that function. Ultimately, the objective for today is to cover some of the key R45 updates related to procurement invoicing, pay, SIM, and a few others. Recognizing what these key impacts are and, that obviously understanding how that's going to impact your current environment is really important. We'll also share some cross-country release management offerings as well. Something to note about the key highlights and updates that we have today, we are going to cover them at a relatively high level. We will send out additional details and more detailed deck with really all of the impacts. And obviously our PPS team, as those who are part of that, customers that are part of that offering, know we can help you understand more specifically around your particular use cases. For the agenda, we'll do some intros. You've got an illustrious panel here supporting you today, not including myself. Some key release highlights and impacts, cross-country AI services and release management offerings, and then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So as much as we can get to the questions in the chat, we will. Some may be left to the end. We'll do our best to answer those. And then anything we cannot get to, we can follow up with you via email. All right, big plug for Inspire. I'm sure there's a bunch of people on this call that are going to be joining the cross-country team and many other Coupa customers at Coupa Inspire this year between May 11th and May 14th in Las Vegas. So what to expect? Obviously, there's going to be a ton of content, a ton of other partners and other related procurement activities that are going to be happening that week. Please come and join us at booth 7A. We'll be there for demos, conversations, and some cross-country swag to add to your desk. On Monday, May 11th, we will be holding a party at Liquid. So that's going to be the pool at Aria. Everybody on the call, get your phones out. That QR code is live. And please RSVP for the event. I think we've got about, I don't know, maybe 300 to 400 people already RSVP'd. So it's going to be an amazing time to network. And again, we do encourage you to make it one of your stops while you're at Inspire. On Tuesday, we'll have some breakout sessions focused on tech enablement. There'll be a fireside chat with Ross Stores, who's one of the customers that we'll be highlighting, as well as some evolving procurement value through practical S2P transformation. So we'll just be sharing some lessons learned and getting questions and answers from customers similar to yourself. Lastly, on Wednesday, May 13th, there will be an auto accrual AI live demo. I'll jump into a little bit more about exactly what that auto accrual is later on in the presentation. But again, would love if you stop by the booth or during that live session to kind of get a taste of how that can help your organization. All right, first polling question of the day. For those who haven't joined us before, there are questions throughout. You won't be quizzed on the material today. First question is, are your Coupa admins up to date with their certifications to maximize your platform's value? And so, yes, certified within the past year, certified 1 to 2 years ago, certified 2 to 3 years ago, certified over 3 years, and then unsure, or maybe you don't have the certification yet, or you don't have an admin. And so maybe that's, the first step. Go ahead and give folks another, 15 seconds to answer. All right, channel, let's close it. All right, so really mixed bag here, guys. So 30% certified within the past year, 21% 1 to 2 years ago, about the same for 2 to 3 years ago. So 1 to 3 mark makes up about 40% of the group here. And then there's a few that are still looking for admins as well, or just haven't been certified. And so I think this is a great segue into handing it over to my colleague Tiffany to go through some of the cross-country training offerings.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, my name is Tiffany Scarlett. I lead our training as a service practice, and the offering we want to highlight today is Admin Boot Camp. This is absolutely one of my favorite things we get to do. I actually see quite a few people on the call that have gone through this with us. Admin Bootcamp is our way to really empower Coupa admins to feel comfortable in the system. And we do this with our do one, see one, teach one methodology. The idea is that you will get to see in the system how to engage with Coupa. We'll walk you through some of those key concepts. After you see it, you'll get to do it yourself. So that's done through some hands-on labs. We're actually setting up your Coupa test instance in ways that you yourself get to engage. Then, as admins, you progress even further as a teach one method. So this happens by you leading internal training sessions or creating what we like to call micro learning videos, those quick 2 to 5 minute training sessions, creating QRGs, or even setting up labs for others. I absolutely love this. We have some suggested topics here on the side. Could be user management, financial configuration, approval workflows is a really common one. But the key here is that this is customized to what you need as admins. What are the areas that you find your team is requesting most often? We will cater this toward your needs. My favorite part of this is our capstone project. So at the end of Admin Bootcamp, we have day in the life of an admin as a simulation. This is when there are intentional errors created in your system, or maybe even specialty requests from users presented to you. And as admins, you get the opportunity to troubleshoot those in the system. So absolutely love this. Again, I know we have several on the call that have been through it with us. Want to highlight that as one of the new and favorite offerings we have through training as a service.
And Tiffany has done such a fantastic job standing up this part of our services, and yeah, truly makes a difference to ensuring you guys can manage your system on the day-to-day basis.
Great, thank you.
All right, Tiffany, if you want to take us through the first key release highlights, that would be great.
Happy to. Thanks. All right. Before we jump into the features, a few notes on Coupa's release cadence and dates tied to this specific release. So we're here into April. You can see that for Wave 0 and Wave 1, this release has been pushed into the test instance. So if you are unsure which wave you're in, or if you have a preferred wave you'd like to be in for additional testing, you can open a ticket with Coupa support to request additional information. You can also reach out to our PPS team, of course, to discuss the benefits of being in one wave versus another, or if you'd like some support in regression testing. So we can see that there's usually about 2 weeks between when those updates are pushed between your test and production instance to allow for that testing. Wave 2 is coming up soon, and everyone should see that in your production instance by early June. Okay, let's get into the platform highlights. Awesome. So, of course, we have to talk about AI. As of late 2025, early 2026, Coupa is heavily investing in integrating AI across their platform. This specifically is showing us one of the ways users can interact with documentation. So the new AI-driven approach is going to provide a more faster conversational experience for finding documentation. So ideally, everyone on this call is comfortable with Compass. If you're not, again, we're happy to help you get associated with that. Coupa documentation here is going to enhance that and reduce reliance on that stagnant data source to make it a little more dynamic. So really encourage everyone, you have a direct link here to start exploring the new AI enhanced documentation. Okay, next slide. Awesome. A quick note on formatting for these highlights, if you haven't been in our sessions before. At the bottom of each slide, you'll notice these 3 blue and white boxes. This is going to let you know if the feature is already on by default, meaning there's no additional action required by you, and whether or not it's impacting your roles or your integration. So as Ian mentioned, there are more detailed notes that go out about each feature after the call, but this gives you at least a quick look at where some of those impacts are. Right, we'll get started with quick flow. Oh, if you would go back one.
Right.
Thank you. We'll get started with quick flow configuration. This largely impacts the admins. So this is going to allow you to complete setup activities in a more structured way. Tends to be earlier in your Coupa journey. Quick flow configuration is organizing the early stages of a development, of a deployment into guided setup activities. So some ways you can use these tools include accessing configuration tasks from a central workspace, completed guided workflows for common tasks, importing essential data, or tracking setup progress. So it's going to reduce the time required to prepare the platform and provide clear visibility into progress of those steps. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. Great. So highlight on this first one for the left side, it is not on by default. So this is related to those that are engaging with the SIM module. You can now request specific information on a supplier's business profile. I know some of these checkboxes are kind of small, but you can see there specific details, maybe requesting updates on address, diversity information, tax registration. This is allowing more specific requests on what you're needing from those suppliers. Okay, here on the right, we're seeing some information related to whitelisting. So this is going to restrict the OAuth token usage to trusted networks, enabling IP whitelisting and reducing the unauthorized API access. So one thing to note is that when this is enabled, the system is going to validate the source IP address of each request and block any that are outside the configured range. Okay, awesome. We can go to the next one.
Yeah, and it's Charity's favorite. The first box on the left. This has been one I feel like a lot of clients have been asking about, just in terms of, making sure that they get the right information from their vendors through the CSP. So good shout, Charity.
Okay. I will say I didn't mark this as my favorite, this first one on the left, but this might be one of the ones that we do see commonly requested. So the ability to track the last true activity date for users. So we could previously see the last login. Now you can see the last true intentional activity and engagement in the system. That is something that will be able to report against. You can also see if they're engaging via email or truly within the UI. You can see if that action was done through the mobile device as well. So just a little more data going to be available to help identify inactive users and really optimize that license utilization. Okay, and finally on the right, this update, it's going to utilize the strength of Coupa notification and reporting as it relates to AI. So it's going to help monitor that AI credit usage. This lets admins create up to 5 unique alerts to notify users as they're approaching the limit on those AI credits. So it can be configured to automatically pause usage if they hit that limit, only enabling usage again by admin action or if more credits are purchased. So again, we're just enhancing visibility in the system, managing costs associated with those AI credits. Okay.
All right, and with that, over to Ian Williams. Thank you,
Hey
Tiffany.
all. Tiffany, thank you for what you provided thus far. Um, what I want to highlight in this stage is the new supplier UI for the landing page. So some of you may have seen it, some of you may not have, but it can be enabled by enabling supplier dashboard under your company information. Within that, you have an improved search bar options at the supplier page, supplier dashboard at the top. So instead of it being a flat page, you now have supplier dashboard information at the top. Content related to that, specifically related to RPM, will be covered on a later slide. But you have the ability to filter results and customize the entire supplier page. So basically, the UI is now more flexible to your all's needs rather than it being a stagnant page. Even within those subtabs, within those tabs and subtabs, part of the information is being broken out independently. So whereas you were looking at everything within one flat file page, now different tabs are broken out, so it's easier to get to the content that you would like to get to. This is off by default, can be enabled, and is honestly a pretty strong indicator of some of the things that Coupa wants to do. R45 thus far looks to be, at least to me, very UI oriented. So next, let's talk about demand aggregation for scheduled PO issuance. This may not be relevant to everyone, but where you do have aggregated demand or scheduled POs, you now have the functionality to consolidate that information based on criteria. That criteria being supplier, site, and item. So within that, instead of all content being issued all at once, you now can kind of break it out into various areas to help mitigate just a major blast of information all at once. I only got to pick one favorite, but this one probably would land up as my number 2. This is the landed cost at header page. So this is something that I imagine is going to be relevant to a lot of us here. This is putting over some of those additional fields that are included on the invoice, some of that like mischarge, various discounts, etc., pulling that onto the requisition. This is extremely valuable for those that are looking at tariffs. So instead of there being a dedicated line item that you are issuing out, you now have an entire space that is more freeform in order to support that functionality. It's off by default, and in both cases that are included in these slides themselves, you will have to contact Coupa support in order to enable them, but that landed cost at header level, I think would be a major value for a lot of clients.
Not agree more, Ian. Yeah, I feel like we got this question and so many times, and yeah, I'm really glad to see this feature added.
To me, it says that they're listening.
Yeah, I would agree.
Speaking of them listening, this is the first peek behind the iron curtain that has historically been punch outs. You now have the capability to control some of the visibility and access control related to items that are included in punch-out. This is to say that you can help drive preferred items within the punch-out level 2 option. So, whereas before, if something is set to a punch-out, you're basically completely dependent on the supplier in order to drive to appropriate spend. Now you kind of build out your own item on your side, and then the punch-out is supporting the pricing information related to it. So in that way, you're helping to drive appropriate spend even within a punch out, which has historically been pretty challenging. It's off by default, but an additional value there is that duplication between the item that you're creating as a level 2 versus items that exist within open buy. The duplication will be ignored, but this functionality to me highlights more control in Punch-Out, client facing, and is a step in a direction that I really do like to see coming out of Coupa. So I'm a big fan of items for those that have worked with me historically. I'm actually pretty excited about this one. But this is breaking out the item table, the catalogs, items themselves, but it's breaking out the content into the areas that that make it up. So at header, you have the item detail. This will be like your item name, description, unit of measure, things that apply to all of the supplier items. Then at supplier item, you have price, part number, etc. Coupa has now separated those into different tabs within the UI as well as within controls. So you can now build conditions within catalogs based on the creation of a header item versus the creation of a supplier item. So you're getting more visibility and control based on types of changes that are occurring within the system. So specifically, we have parent item created, parent item updated, supplier item created / updated. And then additionally, the UI has improved splitting the information out between the two areas. Okay. Building into that content that I was saying before, UI focus, this R45. Now in the search page, and this is on by default, you can deactivate it if you would like to. Deactivating is under the supplier dropdown and company information, but they have changed the way that they've changed the look associated to your search bar. So when searching for an item rather than that vertical page that you guys are used to seeing, now is more horizontal, covering more information within that page, and then providing a clearer image within the actual UI search. So visibility wise, it looks clean. That said, if it's not something that you prefer for your business, you can have it deactivated. Tailing into the next piece, we have CSP email tracking for buyers. So this, I imagine, has been something that has been heavily requested. And this is basically outbound email having its own dedicated space for CSP outbound emails. So whereas before everything existed under outbound, you'd have to go filter, search, and find. Now there's actually a dedicated space in order to capture that specific information, helping to guide and drill into content and information that is most relevant to you as a client. Okay, next piece that we're going to talk about here is supplier visibility for ASN CXML errors. So, historically, suppliers seeing the content related to CXML errors has been difficult. Basically, on our side, we get a notification, hey, we had an error. Then you're working with the supplier saying, hey, this is the error that we got. We pass it back and forth, doing a lot of document exchange. Now, at least at the very least within the ASN aspect, suppliers can view the error that occurred on their own side, meaning that it's taking the information out from what you have to pass back for issue resolution and putting it in the supplier's hand, helping them control their own CXML instances rather than being reliant on you as a client to support and pass error log information back to them. So this one is on by default. And then next, and I believe this is my last slide. Yes. So next we have CSP onboarding improvements. So suppliers can configure passkey for multi-factor authentication. And if a supplier fails to do so within their first initiation, that information will still exist within their workbench. And so will be helpful if they miss doing something at the beginning of their onboarding process. Workbench will still store that. They can come back in and fill it later. So with that, Ian, will you take the next slide?
Yeah, thanks, man. Those are great updates. And there's more to come. So, polling question number two, which Coupa modules are you interested in learning more about or implementing in the future? I won't go through the full list. It's basically just a list of all of the modules, that Coupa offers. And so I will give folks, 20 or so seconds to respond, and we'll take a look at the results. All right. Channel, let's go ahead and close it. All right. Analytics was a very, very strong, it was half of the folks' interest here. Um, it's overwhelming the amount of folks that honestly selected analytics, which is great because obviously you're seeing the need for additional reporting, outside of what is offered through Coupa Standard, and so. Now, obviously, any of the modules that you selected, should you need additional support, understanding into how that can provide value to your organization, our team is here to help. And so, yeah, Ian will be sharing some contact information later on, but any of these modules, our team again is here to support you in your journey. All right, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Charity.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to be talking through two time savers for our AP teams. I don't know if you guessed it yet, but I have several favorites here. The first is going to include bulk editing invoices in a single page view. This is going to be a huge time saver for our AP personnel. You're able to make adjustments to your coding all at once, and this will kind of alleviate any of the manual work. We also have a functionality that allows you to bulk download invoice attachments and image scans. This is going to be a really great function if you're needing to collect that information to be stored offline. I will note that this is only enabled for those that are working in our new experience. So if you're using our classic experience, this function is not available. So this is another nudge to how you guys use our new experience.
This is definitely like an auditor's dream because before they were going to have to download them individually. And so, obviously now they can do it in bulk.
Can agree more. Okay, so I have many favorites in here. The next would be the ability to link amount-based purchase orders to quantity-based invoices. Now, I will say that historically, the mismatch would force a manual cleanup. Now you're able to associate an amount-based PO with a quantity-based line, and AP is able to control this and allow for matching, reduces some of the rework for AP. So another huge win. I will say this is not on by default. We do need to enable this for your instance. We do have instructions on how you're able to support this under your global company information settings. Okay. And then additionally, we do have some updates to some country-specific e-invoicing compliance, which include Brazil and France, where these are also on by default. Okay, still in the realm of AP, we have some new highlights for Invoice Smash. So Invoice Smash can now extract the contract reference number directly from invoices coming in and submitted via the Coupa Core. This is going to be beneficial for your AP teams and anyone that is doing contract-backed compliance reporting because you're not having to manually key in the contract IDs or chasing down references as you would have to do historically. So this is another win for Invoice Smash in their ability to extract contents from your attachments. As we're speaking on this, there is a new enhancement as far as converting lines for quantity and amount type. So Invoice Smash is going to be really built on defined rules. You're able to now define a rule to select what type of invoice line should be processed for your supplier invoices. This can either be quantity to amount or amount to quantity. And so again, Invoice Smash, when you have those standard rules, this will be a huge win in ensuring consistency among those submissions. Okay. Process compliant XML invoices through Invoice Smash. So when a compliant XML invoice is received in the invoice inbox, it will automatically apply to the country-specific XSLT templates to convert it. So that's going to do another thing that you don't have to worry about, especially for some of those clients that are working in international spaces. And we do have another migration reminder. So for those of you who currently have Invoice Smash, Coupa is moving everyone to Invoice Smash Core by the end of September 2026. And you'll know if you have Core because you'll see extracted invoices automatically appearing in your primary invoice tab. Okay. What you get from this unified experience is a single consistent place to capture and process invoices. It is going to be a huge win for those that are using Invoice Smash today as far as this core implementation, as it's less context switching, more standardization, and a cleaner path where you have one designated workstation. Okay. This next slide is going to be about our new supplier dashboard experience on the supplier homepage. Think of it more like a modern landing page. So we have incorporated here some new landing widgets, which I'll talk through in just a second. But ultimately, at the top, if you're able to see our screenshot, this is going to be where you'll search for your suppliers as you do today. But we have incorporated underneath it some interactive widgets, which include the ability to review top suppliers by spend. You can also see supplier status distribution as far as what's been active, what's been inactive, the health distribution, as well as invoice by status. So these are going to be great for pulling out those key metrics and just having that visual as far as your supplier health. Okay. Our release also includes updates to our supplier intelligence. So we now have a modernized view of supplier information, what we call our supplier intelligence, that brings together all of your actionable to-dos. So here you'll have your activities, your spend, your supplier health, community insights, and to-dos, all as it relates to your suppliers. So this will be a really great dashboard if you're looking to validate or organize your suppliers in certain sections. This is available depending on your user's role. This can be enabled as it's not on by default for this functionality. All right. Now moving over to Navi. So for those who are not aware, Coupa Navi is our generative AI solution that provides real-time support and helps you make smarter decisions and allow you to navigate Coupa platform and applications. We have an enhancement to our supplier risk profile agent. So this is going to allow for an AI-guided way to generate a supplier risk snapshot without hunting down multiple sources. This is going to be great for sourcing, great for procurement, supplier owners, and the risk teams who need a fast context before a decision. Okay. More with Navi. So the simple idea is that you're able to take a supplier record and quickly screen for it for any potential matches against major global sanction lists. So this is going to be specific for our US, EU, and UK regions. I will say this is most valuable for our procurement team, our supplier management team, and compliance team, especially during your onboarding or when something changes and you need to revalidate risks without having to leave your workflow. So great, more reporting, more monitoring, and the use of our AI generative option. Okay. Our lightweight supplier onboarding and Navi, this is where our buyers are able to use Coupa Navi to discover internal community suppliers and onboard them directly through the chat window. So Navi presents the possible onboarding process with their corresponding forms and pre-fills the information when possible without redirecting the user. So this is going to be a one-stop shop, having everything to be done with a lightweight supplier onboarding directly through our Navi application. This is continuing to scale as AI becomes more immersive. So more to come here. Not to note, it's not on by default, but this can be turned on in your global settings. All right, so this is going to just be the overall Navi agent portfolio expansion and what's new and what's been enhanced for our agents. So I won't go through all of these, but the idea is that you now have a way to interact with Navi through most of your applications. And this is going to allow for an autonomous agent to support some of your daily tasks as it relates to contracting, sourcing, risk aware, and even supplier onboarding. This is going to be a tool that can be used to help to drive automatic information and to take some of the manual work out of our system admins. And we're just going through this so quick. Can't believe this is my last slide. But here we are to ENW's favorite. This is going to be our Navi Agent Studio enhancement. So this is going to be a dashboard where the admins and power users are able to build custom agents at your company with your company specific knowledge without starting from scratch. This is going to benefit your procurement teams and your AP leadership who want consistent answers and guided workflows for users. This is going to be while keeping your aligned policies and processes intact. So this is going to be a great win and great call out for this being your favorite as well. I think with that being said, I will send it back to Ian.
Thanks, Charity. Yeah, ton of new AI features, getting released through Coupa, and it's a good segue into really displaying maybe how CrossCountry can help our clients adopt AI. So this slide really just summarizes our approach in 4 lanes that we use to take AI from ideas to delivered value and then sustainable adoption. So the first is strategic transformation. And this is where we help organizations lead the transition into AI-powered operating models. So what does that really mean? It means human-centered design workshops to set priorities, and then designing and implementing the transformation program, like operating model changes, innovation labs, and process redesign. And really, again, what we're here to do is really figure out what your goal is as an organization and where AI agents can fit into the organization to really assist in the process. And so once that strategy is clear, we move on from vision to execution. So the second swim lane here is AI-powered solutions. And this is where we focus on very targeted high-value use cases, not generic AI. And so a strong example of this that we mentioned that will be part of what we'll be displaying at Coupa Inspire is auto accrual AI, which directly addresses one of finance's biggest pain points. And I'm sure there are folks on this call that when month-end accruals, it comes to that time, it can be a little bit challenging. It's challenging because there's month-end accruals when receipts or invoices don't exist yet. And so what auto accrual AI does is brings AI into the heart of the month-end close process. It predicts accruals before invoices exist, and CrossCountry has designed and implemented full workflows for clients using this tool, turning accruals from a manual fire drill into predictive controlled process embedded directly into Coupa. Third is AI enablement. You can have the best solution ever, but if people don't adopt it, then you'll still run into the same challenges. And so what we're here to do is bring to you best practice playbooks, starter packs, ROI templates, training toolkits, as well as hand-on enablement-based learning to upskill and certify the folks within your organization to then deliver trainings to the rest of the organization to ultimately lead to greater adoption. Lastly, governance, security, and risk. And so with the prevalence of AI, there's also a real need to ensure that from a security and risk standpoint, that our clients are protected. And so what we help them do is put AI governance frameworks around risk monitoring, cybersecurity assessments to ensure continuous oversight. And so we are, here to help through the AI journey as things continue to evolve. CrossCountry is staying on the forefront of what is happening within this space, and again, are here to support our clients within Coupa, procurement, and AP, as well as outside of those functions as well. All right, and with that, I'll hand it to Ian to take us to the rest of the information.
Perfect. Thanks, Ian. Honestly, with two of us on the same call, you'd think there'd be a lot more Ians in this company. It is just us two.
Exactly.
It just ended up working out this way. Okay, so edit starting check number. So the starting check number field is now editable for existing company financials. Basically, what this means is where historically you would be unable to edit this value, now you can go into the same instance, same record, and change the starting check number. It does not impact any of the information that you have historically processed. It is a going forward change, but prevents you from having to do the stop, delete, re-add aspect. So then part of this best practice is making sure to discuss this with your bank before implementing any change. But it does showcase a desire within Coupa to increase flexibility and control within the client side. So historically, just through the theme of R45, UI, flexibility, and control. Those are the key aspects that I'm picking up on just in reviewing the content thus far. Next, on the pay side, we have enabling single payment per invoices. So whereas you're historically issuing a batch goes out, you have multiple payments being issued across the board. At supplier level, you're able to, and even at supplier site level, you're able to indicate that the supplier is to receive one payment per invoice. So again, building additional control within or flexibility and control within what happens on your instance and how you are interacting with your vendors. So additional caveat associated to this: for transfer made digital payments, each separate payment leads to a separate direct debit. So caveat there, just some considerations regarding this topic. So next we're going to go to ENG's favorite. So this is set required supporting documents for supplier payment methods and accounts. I will be honest, I had to practice this a few times in order to not stumble over that sentence. So admins can now define standard documents required for suppliers when setting up bank transfer payment methods. This is similar to one of the slides that was covered by Tiffany. Basically, we're able to, on the bank transfer payment methods, we're able to dictate what type of documents that we will accept client side, rather than vendor being able to just send what they would like to send. This is off by default, but can be enabled, and then has a couple of prerequisites that are tied to it. Obviously, Coupa Pay, RPM entitlements, and the payments admin role. But this again is showcasing a desire within Coupa to give you more control over your own instance. Ian, is there anything else that you would like to highlight related to this?
Think I mentioned it earlier for another one. I'm sure there's folks on the call who have just like breathed a sigh of relief or like excitement over this one because it's definitely been one when you're getting information from the CSP into your instance and there's no bank statement or voided check. This way you can, again, as Ian mentioned, require this information so that as these are being reviewed, there can be some backing documentation to support the bank account that's being provided.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on to the next piece, we have withdrawn submitted payment batches. So now you have, and this is a pretty quick hit, but now you have the capability to withdraw payment batches that you have submitted back to draft. So say, for example, you accidentally kick something out or realize that something needs to change well after. Hey, I see that applause. Obviously, this was well wanted. But you can now pull that from pending approval back to draft, make the appropriate edits, and then resubmit.
I don't know, Ian, since that one got more love, maybe I'll move my little cursor thing over to that one.
I think the slide's editable. Go
Okay.
ahead. Okay, so Coupa Card real-time charges improvement. Now, from a UI standpoint, you have two areas from which you're able to track and view your Coupa charges. You have pending and posted. At base, not on by default, but can be initiated. Within that space, you are able to highlight under My Payments and organize charges into the two sections, the pending and posted charges, breaking out information and viewing it more consistently. So then additionally, as a charge is being created, your user is going to be able to receive a notification and be able to provide appropriate detail, such as receipts, additional context, whatever is necessary in support of this charge. So again, more visibility, more control, more flexibility within your own systems. Speaking on flexibility, going to the next one is something that I think that they've been hesitant to do anything with for a while, but it's actually pretty exciting to see. So Coupa Pay is secure bulk upload for employee payment accounts. This is your initial load for employee payment accounts. This is not update. This is initial load to clarify. Your user, your admin now have the capability to update this information to your users as net new. And that information is not stored anywhere within Coupa except for its appropriate place. As in to say, once the load has been done, once the update has been created, the net new records have been created, it is not retrievable by admin or anyone else. That information is immediately deleted, but allows you the flexibility in order to create that and not be dependent on your end users to populate that information themselves. Following that, we have a few to cover. So release notifications for users with LESG. So release notifications are only sent to users that have access to all legal entities in a payment batch. Whereas without this enabled, all users would receive the notification. This is basically giving some control on who's seeing what when it comes to the payment batch release. Next, we have positive pay file for JP Morgan and Chase. There's effectively just exactly that. It says what it does on the 10. There is a new pay file that is available for JP Morgan Chase that is now supported. Next, we have refined default SPA selection for invoices. So this one's interesting. So you can now define your SPA listed to the invoice rather than the active account. So this is to say that the control is listed at the invoice level rather than the account level. And that visibility and control exists on your guys' side. If the SPA is in pending approval, then the invoice status will show pending to account approval. So all three of these areas are going to be on by default. This last one is not. So Coupa Card Brex account connection flows. For those that do leverage Brex, this may be something that is of value to you. So existing Brex users can now link their Brex account to Coupa cards without additional underwriting. And then once connected, organizations can leverage their existing Brex legal entities and billing structures directly within Coupa to issue Coupa cards. So whereas there were additional steps to go through in order to leverage your Brex account connection, now it is all in one and upgraded within Coupa proper. So before we start digging into the PPS aspect of this conversation, question for you guys. When was the last time your organization conducted a health check or regression testing? Recently, within 4 months, past 12, past 18, or it's been a while? Give it a couple of seconds, and then with respect to time, want to make sure to okay. So okay. It looks like we're pretty close to 50-50. Some mix there, but it's been a while, and recently are sort of our two main hits here. And that kind of makes a lot of sense. Either it's happened more recently or it's about time. So let's go into some of the aspects that we can discuss within PPS. So looking at our wheel here, the outside area that is being laid out here are business opportunities that exist. So operational accounting processes, optimization, risk and compliance, innovation, transactions, etc. These are all areas that are generally supported from business side. Drilling into that, we have the environments in which those opportunities live. Obviously, we're all here on the Coupa call. We're aware that Coupa is a supported aspect, but CrossCountry has PPS opportunity within all the areas listed here. The NetSuite to Coupa integration, UiPath, Intact, Alteryx, all of these areas have PPS support opportunities and pull in these business processes in order to best support you as the client and meet your goals and your end of year deliverables. Next slide, we're going to drill into some of the more specific content pertaining to this. So at current, we have 250 clients that are supported through PPS, 30 dedicated team members, all across 85 different supported countries, and we handle over 800 tickets a month. In that aspect, we cover a multitude of areas. Operational support, so from a day-to-day being your additional admin effectively to help work on your day-to-day operations and solve for your current state. Optimize and enhance from a project standpoint, helping to build to your guys' goal. So looking backwards from this is where we want to be and how do we get there? Release management. We'll cover this in more content or in more context in the next couple of slides. And then we have beyond that sourcing, buyer support, security, user management, supplier enablement, reporting, integrations, and health checks. All of those areas are aspects in which PPS can actually help drive success for you as a client to meet your goals and deliverables. Okay, so focusing here within our release schedule, we'll talk through this a bit. We have some of the content that'll be shared with you regarding this call itself. The release reference guide will be passed to you as an email following this call. The recording itself will be passed to you as well as an email following this call. Beyond that, I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit, but within that email, there is an opportunity for you all to get a prize effectively, a sign in, so an enter to win, and it's a 1-year subscription to the Accrual AI, which is a pretty major value. So be sure to be on the lookout for that email as well. Jumping back in, opportunities are going to be within your system health checks, regression testing, and then release impact assessments. So Tailing into it just a little bit deeper, Ian, if you could go to the next slide for me. There's basically three tiers when it comes to this content. You have a high level, full scale, and new feature. So high level is where we're coming in, we're taking the results of R45 or any release realistically, taking a look at your instance, comparing to the opportunities that exist within this release, and then providing updates or areas that might be of interest to you. So take, for example, we have the payment release batch or some of the other favorites that have been highlighted by this group. Taking a look at your instance and finding opportunities within that and seeing if, hey, is this a positive, negative impact? Is this something we want to activate, not activate? Next scale, so at the full scale impact assessment, we dive deeper into it. So we're taking your content and reviewing your instance specifically, looking for areas of opportunity within the instance, and then running analysis, running tests to make sure that it works appropriately. Beyond that, as we get into new feature, with a ticket, we would be able to we'd be able to take you from end to end when it comes to enablement. And this is from ideation, design, all the way through hypercare. So if there's ever anything of interest that you have that, hey, we want to stand up this module, we want to enable this feature. With a ticket, we would be able to support you the entire way through the process. So, wrapping up at this case, want to first and foremost say thank you all for joining the call today. I know finding an hour, especially during lunch, can be extremely difficult. So wanted to say how much I appreciate it. And this panel definitely appreciates you all taking the time to join us today. As it comes to release management support, for new customers, please reach out to Matt Consavage. Email included in the document here, which will be shared again with you all after the call. And then for existing customers, please reach out to your CrossCountry request hub and specific to your R45 support. Issue a ticket, and then we will be able to help you from there. Again, everyone, thank you so much for your time and definitely appreciate you joining us here today.